I want you to imagine something. You're finishing a long week at work or school and are looking ahead to Friday night. What would you do? Would you go to a party? Stay in and watch TV? Go to dinner with friends? Or maybe relax with a cup of tea? So I'm going to ask, can you raise your hand if you picked the party or dinner with friends? Okay. So if that's you, you're probably more of an extrovert, someone who derives their energy by being around other people in social situations. Now, would you raise your hand if you picked the TV or cup of tea? Okay, if that's more you, some of you enthusiastically, then you're probably more of an introvert, someone who derives their energy by being alone and is actually sapped by being around large groups of people for extended periods of time. Now, perhaps you are indifferent or torn between the two options. Most people do fall between the two poles and are often labeled as ambiverts. Now, it's important to note that was not a scientific study, and that extroversion and introversion do not dictate whether you're shy or outgoing or talkative or withdrawn. They're indicators of how you energize. So for me, the option would be very easy. I'd go to the party because I'd get to see my friends and I'd get to dance and talk, and then on Saturday night, I'd go to a dinner because I'd get to see my friends and eat and talk, and then I'd organize a hike on Sunday because I'd get to see my friends and walk and talk, and you're probably getting a sense of what my weekends look like. On the well-established Big Five personality test, which measures conscientiousness, agreeableness, openness to experience, neuroticism, and the topic of today's conversation, extraversion, I scored 40 out of 40 points on the extraversion measure. And Carl Jung said there's no such thing as a pure introvert or a pure extrovert, but I think I'm at least a pretty extreme extrovert. 6 years ago, I took a different test called the Gallup Strengths Finder 2.0. This is a widely used tool to assess one's top 5 strengths, including things like adaptability, communication, and intellection. Those 5 strengths are divided into 4 domains: executing, the ability to follow through on and implement ideas; influencing, the ability to get other people to buy into and support your ideas; relationship building, the ability to bring groups of people together; and strategic thinking, the ability to think about possibilities. So as I predicted where my strengths would lie, I thought I'd do really well in relationship building. After all, I'm an extrovert. I'm really friendly, I love being around people. I thought, I'd be really high in connectedness, includer, positivity. I thought I'd be A+ at relationships. The results, though, were shockingly distant from what I expected. One of my strengths, achiever, fell into the executing domain. 1, strategic, fell into the strategic thinking domain. And 3, activator, communicator, and woo. Woo is the ability to get people to like you. That's how it's defined, actually. Those all fell into the influencing domain. I didn't have one strength of my top 5 in relationship building. Honestly, after being told for so many years that you light up a room and you make friends easily, I felt like a fraud. And so I went into defensiveness. This test doesn't know me, it was inaccurate. But over time, some more honest reflection started to creep in. I started to realize I didn't know some really important things about some of my best friends. I'd catch myself tuning out when other people were talking. And so I pushed myself to read books like Emotional Intelligence and Give and Take. I practiced intensive listening, empathizing, and demonstrating vulnerability. I challenged myself to step back, to create space for others to shine, and to be more open and honest about the challenges that I was facing. Now, I know I still have plenty of work to do in this area, but I think I've made progress. And then, over the past year, I came across some data that made me feel a whole lot less alone. And trust me, for an extrovert, there's nothing better than being less alone. I'm currently teaching a leadership class here at TASOK, and I had all of my students, 16 of them, take both the Big Five personality test and the Strengths Finder. The results were very interesting. Of my 4 most extroverted students, who are here pictured in orange, ranging between 29 and 32 out of a score of 40, those 4 most extroverted students accounted for 72% of the class's influencing strengths, but only 11% of the class's relationship building strengths. This finding was reinforced by something I read that said that extroversion primarily impacts the quantity and intensity of interpersonal relationships, but it's actually agreeableness that impacts the quality of them. Seeing this trend in my students made me feel a whole lot less like a fraud. It made me feel like perhaps I was just a regular extrovert. Perhaps I had conflated the ability to influence people with the ability to build relationships with them. I had assumed that extroversion alone was enough to connect. After all, networking, sharing ideas, meeting people, those all take place with others. But true relationship building goes beyond those more transactional interactions and into the deep nuances of connecting, understanding, and demonstrating vulnerability. I have come to see my extroversion as an aspect of my personality that helps me to connect with other people and engage them, but extroversion alone is not enough to connect. For the introverts listening today who might want to deepen their own relationship building skills, I would encourage you to avoid falling into the same trap I did and equating extroversion with the ability to connect. Sure, extroversion may help you make first contact with other people, but you may already have the qualities that build true relationships, like curiosity and authenticity. Channel those. And for the extroverts listening, you may benefit as I did from reflecting on the difference between influencing and relationship building in your life. Extroverts often find themselves in positions of influence. And if we are to have the broadest and most positive impact possible, then our relationships with others must be strong and multidimensional. And so, when you're at the party, rather than hopping around the room, take some time to learn about that person that you're talking with. When you're at the dinner, ask the revolutionary question that will take the conversation to a new level. And go on the hike with just one close friend, and use that time to strengthen your bond. Ultimately, I would challenge extroverts to go beyond influencing and into a more meaningful place. How can you transform your love of people into a profound passion for meaningful human connection? Thank you.